Hi guys, we are live, I believe, and let me know if you can't hear me or anything. And if you can hear me, I'm very much looking forward to Shazam. It already says I'm very much looking forward to spending an evening with you guys, and it's so good to Tony, Mandy, and Braden. So good to have you here, guys. And of course, like a special thank you to Mandy and Tony and Carla and Laurie as well for supporting me over at Coffee. And I'm actually thinking of maybe resuming the group calls so we can pick that up over and at Coffee, you guys. But a special thank you to you. And I hope you're enjoying what at least is a cold summer here in Northern Europe so far. We're going to work with the Yahyel. It's been a while for me. I can't really remember a lot of information about them, but I've been drawn to checking in with the hybrid program. And so I did a check-in with my main man Carlo of the SSani, and now I'm going to check in with the Yahyel. And feel free to ask questions. I assume you guys might be more up to date with what's been happening and going on with them these entities, the gang over in that frequency range. So other than that, also like personal questions and questions are welcome, whatever you feel guided to seek help for. They're here. So both to Jochen also and to David, so good to have you. Much love to the both of you. So bring your questions, guys. I'll step aside and I'll bring in my man Ig'nak of the IL. And if you don't remember, he is remarkable by having quite a funny accent, and we'll see how much I'll tune into that. But it can also be a bit of a strain doing it, but it can also be slightly hilarious. So let's see where let's see where that takes us. Much love, guys. Hello, friends. This is your friend Ignak. I come from the Yahyel civilization, and I am pleased to greet you this evening. This evening, I've come to speak to you of hybridization, and I've come to speak to you about these levels that you hop skip through on your way to further realization of your nature, of your own creative reality. That is, your true nature is of someone who creates reality. It is not of us as an object, but it is as a type of self-reflectional object. That is, that you see how you create by observing your creation. So it is through the study of yourself and the life that you created through yourself that you can begin to observe what is actually going on behind the veil, what's actually going on with your higher self, what's actually going on with your soul. And so this soul level of yours, this is a level that is quite particular because it also moves at certain paces and time frames, but it moves at much higher or slower paces and time frames that you're used to. So your usual division of temporal units is into days, weeks, months, and years. And here you have a sense of once you complete a rotation around your star, you have this sense that, well, one cycle has come to pass and a new one is beginning. But your soul operates on higher cycles, so the level of your soul that's engaged in the entirety of the Milky Way civilizational project, what you also know as the Intergalactic Council of Light, well, this operates, well, on the time scale of the galactic wobble. And the galactic wobble has approximately the 700 million years to finish this complete tilt and rotation around its own center of the black hole. And this means that your soul is very, very patient with the development that you go through from your experience in one star system to another and in your traveling around the galaxy. So realize that you are already on an adventure as an astronaut, a spaceman, as somebody who's merging into these higher realms of hybridization. And the higher realms of hybridization do not necessarily have to do with miracles taking place in your body, in your life, in your DNA. They might very well have to do instead with you being more of the entirety of nature itself. So realize that so many of you hold energies that are strong and powerful and that you have channeled, funneled up from the reaches of your planetary forces or that you bring down from the stars and hold in your energy body. And it is through this coming together with these principles, this hybridization of your being with phenomenon that seem impersonal, that the universe is becoming, let's say, more and more empowered through action, through will. So we are already at the level where we can begin to tinker with the planetary alignments. And so our time scales or the preferred frame of reference that I like to work is it at the moment is one of approximately 1800 years. So this has to do with special rotations of the planetary alignment spheres and configurations. And you may begin to consider what are the patterns that you are aligning with. Because understand as you move through these layers of awakening, ascension, the maturation of your own being and incarnation into more of your true self, well, you also begin to operate in these 7 year frameworks. And these 7 year frameworks, they hold very special frequencies. They are as chapters unto themselves. And in that way, you might sense that some of you are moving through an end, a culmination of certain chapters. Themes are being rounded up, points are being made by the universe at large, and you're experiencing new ways of moving through and developing yourself in the world. And these we come to look at because this is the hop skip. And this is what we wish to guide you to. How do you come into hop skipping to another level of your being? We seek to do that co-creationally with your energy. And therefore, we will relish answering the questions and communicating and exchanging, growing together in the all that is this evening of our time. So thank you so much with the unconditional love of I, me, Ig'nak, and the entirety of the Yahyel civilization. I bless you with love. There is much amusing energy afoot there. Um, Jochen is asking about the quantum, asks about their view on quantum mechanics and spirituality, and says, thanks, much love. Thank you for a beautiful question. Yes. Our perception of it is different in the way that these two concepts are very related to each other in our understanding of the world. And so spirituality you could think of as a type of box of concepts that you haven't fully realized, you haven't fully tapped into the integration of them into your being. And so it becomes this box of otherness. You connect it much to the layers that are invisible, to the layers that are otherworldly, possibly even after lifelike. That is, you connect them to being in a disembodied state. And to us, spirituality is much about the manifest currents that run through the universe. So we sense these more as different energies and measurements of the subtle frequencies of reality. And so spirituality is in many ways what you could think of as the path of the heart into the secrets of universal energy. Then you unlock with the presence of consciousness. That is, friends, understand that when you apply consciousness to anything, it will begin to orchestrate itself in ways that will harmonize your being. This might seem painful at first, but it will stir secrets and greater powers as you also grow in wisdom and sit with this. Quantum mechanics, at the stage that you have understood these phenomenon, that is relating to the different operations and theories, observations that you observe and apply to the subatomic states of reality. This constitutes the path of the mind or into the states of subtle energy. And both these paths are the in a broader sense, they are paths of meditation. That is, these are subtle paths that you have cultivated, not only personally in the individuals that operate and work with these mysteries, but also in the generations that have gone before these individuals. So you accumulate knowledge, subtleties, refinements as theories come together, and it becomes easier both on what you call spirituality and in quantum mechanics for different seekers, scientists, wise men, and lunatics to come together and fruitfully unlock these mysteries. And so notice that spirituality in many ways has the primary resonance of wisdom. And this wisdom then goes hand in hand with the unlocking of the mysteries through the mind, which has the primary frequency of power. And one cannot move too far from the other. And this is why you see this awakening taking place. And it is moving through your being. So the final awakening that's taking place is then the awakening of the root or the bodily layers. And this has the primary function of emotion. And with emotion, we mean love, the frequency of connection, compassion, care, and seeing in others parts of yourself. And all these are interlocked and intertwined. So you are, as your wisdom grows, as your power grows, and as your love grows, as people holding hands in discovering more and more powerful means to unlock, hold, and manifest the subtle mysteries of reality. We are already there, and we are guiding you in this process as well. In love, indeed. Um, I'm Access lol. I've had far too many 7-year cycles. Yes. Uh, and then Tony says, how could there possibly be an alien invasion when humanity is an ET hybrid experiment and we never left? The question is, friend, do you believe that there will be an alien invasion? Because you do create your own reality. And you may be noticing that many human beings are sliding into different, very distinct reality tunnels. And so, what you may have perceived, again, with your framework of understanding, you have perceived aliens to be, let's say, slightly different versions of humans with slightly improved versions of human technology, perhaps mixed in with some tricks that you might consider magic or high spiritual powers, telepathy, telekinesis, mind control, these types of things. Well, understand that the invasion that you speak of is a different one because the invasion is taking place within the atmospheric layers of reality itself. And so understand that it is your alien nature that's being activated within your energy grid at this moment. It is the hybridization of your bodies. And this mean underlocking underlying energy structures in the scripture of your DNA double helix. And this is indeed a type of written code, but it's a written code that was written in, say, invisible, powerful languages that can simply by being spoken make reality come to pass and just as easily destroy it. And so there is a type of constant spell being sustained and spoken through you by your higher self. This is a way of understanding how alien energies are invading you. But a thing that you're also comprehending is that your attention is not a type of byproduct of being a monkey with a brain. Your attention is the frequency, the signal that's moving through your different bodies into creating your own reality. And so you will find that in many of these alien invasions, your attention is being diverted into reality tunnels that hold frequencies that are detrimental to your soul's connection to itself. And you may even understand already what these frequencies are and have an intuitive grip on them. And that is, you will find that if you get lost in many energies of agitation for the sake of agitation, And that can be sexual agitation, it can be argument for the purpose of argument, it can be belligerence, it can be the need to convince others of certain reality readings that you yourself have established and invested energy into. All these are types of alien invasions. And all these experiments were given over to beings that you may know as your lizard opponents. They have different names, these ones. The ancient travelers of energy extraction that move through universes. And some of these, well, are they invaders? Are they demons? Are they dark agents? Or are they simply challenges that you decided to take on because you wanted to create your own reality around fighting dragons and pinning them to the ground and possibly conquering them so you could unite the world with the serene principles abducted out there in the cave? That is, if you choose to fight battles, you will always find enemies willing to fight them with you. And this goes in all dimensions. And therefore, even in the upper layers, when you have thought of your God, your infinite world, as a one single creator, you had to think of him as having another single opponent that almost matched him, because this was the only way that he would have a fair fight to fight and to keep him occupied in eternity. We suggest to you, dear friend, to join hands with the principle of cooperation with your own heart and with the gentleness that is offered to you from it, because we are truly with you in love, and we appear in the sky as guiding lights, as we appear on your inner sky also as guiding lights, winking you into the love that you share and reflect and extend so well to others, but that you would do well to also allow to boomerang back into your own inner sacred circuitry. With love, our blessings, healing companionship to you, dear one. I'm loving the accent after getting used to it. It's and Chuck Miller says much love, much love. I am working with a species called Andaharians who are helping me understand and use the gifts of the divine soul trinities. How can these beings help the group? Well, the structure that they are relating to us to pass on is one that is appears to be a set of interlocking triangles. But our friend here also interpreted it much as the arrangement or balancing act of acrobats. And so this point where one single person at the bottom is stacking and layers of people, three atop of him, five atop of them. And this is the way that you will find that they are serving you, because they are building you into a very solid supportive structure. And you may notice that this song of solidity is one that runs through your being. And if you were to look at your astrological configurations, you might find that this is a concurrent pattern that you act as a support structure to other elements so that they can play out their refined melodies interlocked with yours. This is the way that they are guiding you, and they will show you much more around this. And you may notice that you have begun to shine in ways that are we're looking for the quite proper word. If you that is, they are ill-defined to you, but they seem to be spilling over and be watering others and helping them to grow and nourishing and sustaining them. So this is much of what they're also doing, and they're acting as a stable influence. Guided indeed you are, connected you are, and loved you are. And Mandy asks, I have a child who is transgender, and this seems to have become quite common among the younger generation. I've also learned that more and more young ones are identifying as other species. I think it is referred to as being a furry and other names. What are we seeing unfold with consciousness of humanity when it starts to be a species we are not? Thank you for so much to bringing that to the table. Now we we get to look into it from the other side. What you may have realized, what you may have begun to uncover and piece together is that your encounters with the gray aliens, these beings, it had to do with a wider program of restoring, expanding, and reworking and rewarping the human genome. And so what you know as the hybrid children were in many cases what we thought of, or what you thought of as, we believe the term might also be shiftings in English, but at least our friend here is informing that this is a term, this idea that the people of the woods, the other ones out there, they would come and they would take your children and replace them with theirs. And so some of that has been the wider expansion of the human experiment, that many of your children have actually been removed. They've not been replaced, but they have been to spaces where they have been altered vibrationally. And you will find, for instance, that some, as for instance, this individual that is bringing forward our energy, well, they belong to a sequence of the program that was much interested in building these types of more, let's say, integrated energy bodies who could channel and sustain and hold energies. And those of you who are gathered here, some of you both have undergone these, some of you are have observed the influences of these energy bodies that have been altered, and you have been communicating with us and resonating with it. But many of the novel energies, they have to do with direct physical altercations. So you may think that this is actually a type of regression, but it has to do with sensitizing the human physical system to the frequencies of the planet and the earth. And much of it has to do that many of you are marked out, or many of those are marked out to be guardians of certain species, certain beings, certain animal expressions. And so this is an extension of this phenomenon, that you will begin to see people living also in these realities. And these are in many ways more magical or higher realities. That is, now we are speaking of these ideas of existing or living as an animal, because you might consider your phenomenon of transgenderism as one that has to do more with uncovering or tapping into the expression of the holistic human body and self. So that is in a reality, human beings are made up of these both male and feminine principles of expression and unification. And transgenderism is a type of unification of these principles. And so even if the person is making the transition, they have still completed also for the restoration of the breaking of these two forces, and the way that they have then been in a type of destructive discrepancy, a type of dysfunctional dance between each other and centuries. So within the transgender individual, there is a restoration, a healing of these forces, a coming to terms with it. And that is a very helpful, a type of shamanic gift that's gifted to the human oversoul. And this is quite significant. So much of this you could think of as ways of uncovering ancient practices of relating to nature, of relating to gender, of relating to sexuality, and of relating to the shamanic arts of transgression, and that are finding expressions in new experimental forms in human beings, in the same way that our friend here is perceiving what he is doing as a type of uncovering of an art form he understands as oracular, or this sense of channeling or communion with the unseen. And this is something that human beings have done before, but now appears in new forms, new expressions, in new individuals. We love you for existing, and we love you even more for playing around with what existence means in your specific case. Uh, and Andrea Adams Britt says, tell them thank you. Thank you. Thank you too. And they can always pick up on your intentions, but you know, when you put them in words, they become the much more stronger than we wrote them together. So thank you for that. My body is weak right now, and I can feel him sending me lovely energy through my solar plexus and sacral chakra. This is the first, and I'm so grateful. I'm so happy to hear that. Uh, like, you know, like that is, it really is a co-creation, where the fact that you guys are locking your attention and energy bodies into this frequency is what allows me to bring it through in that way. and I'm of course fairly immersed in it here locally. So it's always so heartwarming and confirming when I know that like the energies are touching and stirring you in your spaces out there, because that's what it's supposed to do, and I actually feel the same from other channelers. That was kind of how my own energy body was activated. So maybe they're also establishing contact with you by unlocking your energy sensors. And if that's the case, then I'm sure I'm sure that will be a delightful encounter. So David asks, is the hybridization program just concerned with human beings, or are plants and trees also able to be upgraded? I work with trees, plants, and I'm curious to know if they ascend with us on our journey. That is a super fascinating question. Thank you so much. You will find that these plants, trees, they are already sentient. And so your concept of them follows your own expansion, meaning that you will notice as human beings move deep into the separation experience, the measurement experience. You also began to think of the forest as trees. So it became this collection of dead, disembodied, unconscious, oddly live driftwood that was somehow just waiting there to be cut down. And what you are coming to realize in your sciences, and even more in your hearts as they awaken and as you connect to nature again, is that these are not trees, but they are forests. Their frequencies and awarenesses, their wisdom is accumulated within their deep collective bodies. And much as the human collective, even though individuals pass away, restore and retain much wisdom and have many experiences, even though you also occasionally face these bottleneck experiences, plagues, and other catastrophes, where much gets wiped out and you have to begin over. Well, this also happens to forests or ecosystems. But you will find when you are in very old forests, those of you who are lucky enough to be able to seek those out, that they have a very deep wisdom and that their healing resonance is an accumulated one. And so as you move into these frequencies, and as we introduce to you that move on other temporal scales, you begin, many of you also, to understand these realities that are of a slower vibrational framework. And so if you begin to speak with trees in what you could think of as Entish, this idea of a language that is so slow that it is more like the growth of bark or the slow expansion of roots, but that is also a deep and intimate language, and that will tell you in its own ways the whispers of these. And so, no, just as some are tapping into animal frequencies, some of you are tapping into botanical frequencies. And you are one of those individuals, David, and this is why you are so called to commune with these energy fields in particular. So this is one of the revelations that is coming through and that's becoming very vivid to you in these ascension shifts, is that you're not all stepping in to being the same type of illuminated being, but you're stepping into being much more of your specific energy bodies. And this means here for somebody who's holding these energies at this moment and speaking with his voice, our energies out into the world, there is an expansion of his astral range of frequencies. But you may sense for many of you, it is your capacity to hold more of the human frequency range in your hearts and in your sense of compassion, or it is your ability to understand deeper mysteries of nature and the whispers of leaves. This you will begin to see, and nature will begin to teach you how to treat her, to heal her, and to live with her well. She loves you, and she is grateful that you love her. This is interesting questions. Manuel Goldbeck asks, what visualization meditation technique can be used to grow taller, like 1-2 centimeters per month, when practiced an hour or so daily, if possible? Well, so the most powerful way that you would be able to achieve this result would be by moving into, let's say, states of deep auto hypnosis. And so the idea here being that this result will be attained once you believe you are that much more taller without having still the conception of yourself as not being that much more taller. And see, that's the problem with what you call manifestation or creating your own reality. That is that it requires this movement of connecting fully to the recreated reality and not the reality you are leaving. And so with that, you may sense that what would be very powerful for you would be envisioning yourself as taller. And with that, also envisioning others seeing yourself as taller. So everybody is corresponding or relating to you as you imagine they would do if you were taller. And with this increase, then you begin to hyperventilate. And you might find that it would be helpful being on your back so you don't hurt yourself if you pass out, because you retain this image of yourself. And then you begin to exhale as much as possible. And you might do very forceful exhalations and do it till you're out of breath and keep doing it till you're out of breath and beyond that. And at keep focusing while you're doing it on the state of being that you want. And then you might find that you will pass out and then you will awaken again. Keep hyperventilating. At some point, you will find that there will be a type of warning signal and you will want to stop this. But at that point, you might also find that you have forgotten what it was you were doing. You have just simply grown taller. And then if you find that in this new recreated reality, you might still have the impulse to grow taller, then proceed to do it. But none of you grew to be adult in one day. And in that way, you may find that once you've reached a certain height, it no longer serves you to keep building yourself into a high tower, so to speak. Happy reaching for the skies. Imark one asks, since I've been adopted, has my DNA been used to help create a Yahyel? Uh, yes, I get it. Let's get some more detail. Well, yes, your DNA has been used more to fuse with what we may think of as a certain later iteration of the hybrid program. So again, we constitute these six iterations of the hybrid program. And you might sense that the codes that we have been helping to extract, and that has primarily been in the 1990s, where we were decidedly involved and more directly involved in the extraction of the genome. Well, here we were creating these new hybrid species. And so you may sense that your energy, well, has been merged with, we sense here for some reason our friend is seeing what is also then related to the tail pattern of something like a red panda, a raccoon, or a fox. And this has to do with these, let's say, more slender or energies of climbing, of moving in and examining other unknown spaces and being nimble, inquisitive, and slightly raucous in the process. So this is what we can convey to you. And some of the specific creatures that contain your DNA, or if you like names, we're getting names such as Unus, that's a Y, an N, a U, and an S. Supti, that's a S, a U, and P, a T, and I. And Asnod, that's an A, an S, an N, an E, an R, and an R. And they send their gratitude, their love. There's always with the hybrid program just so much like strange information, which is both fun and strange. Yes. Uh, and Tony asks, can you please tell the group where you are from, where you are now, what you look like, and what is your purpose? Thank you for that question. In appearance, you might think of us as very slender compared to you. So there is a type of, let's say, shine or appearance to our body. It would appear perhaps more to you as harmonic geometric shapes that are aligned still in a distinctly humanoid configuration. So we do look like human beings, but you might think of us very much as shining, and you might think of us also as more stylized, ideal, and with less variation in our individual bodies. But our physical bodies then give off individual types of light. And my light in particular is one that's greenish, purple, yellow in particular. And this has to do with my general quest, which is to explore the archives and scan them for unknown material. See, it's our soul configurations group in every lifetime. I mean, our friend here, my counterpart, and I, his counterpart, it's our joy to work with the transmission of information, the discovery of information, and the arrangement of information. And this is also something I am dedicated to. So I am a type of messenger, transmitter, herald, emissary. Where we come from is a reality of Earth, or a version of Earth, and an iteration of this planetary system that is different. Life on Mars never went extinct. And so that made the magnetic sphere of Mars have quite a different influence on our home planet. You call her Gaia, but we call her Adil, Adil. And she veered off into a territory that is different from yours. So in this, humanity was never fully developed, and there was therefore a type of more free, harmonic, open earth that we could step into as we were developed by the grace. They dropped us off on these slightly accelerated chiral or parallel timelines. And here we exist within an earth that is much more pristine in its energies. This also means that there are far fewer of us. There are only approximately 25 million of us alive on the entire planetary surface. But we are related into one communication grid. We have no use for it is not necessary for us to maintain this technologically anymore as it is for you. But you will find that you will also begin to merge your biology with your communication grids. And this sensitivity will then begin to connect to your ability to again communicate with the actual planetary grid of information, where the trees, the animals, all living things, and the planet herself indeed is connected into. And this then is also acts as a transmitter to be able to speak with other ascended species, other planetary bodies, and other parallel realities that have done the same. So in that way, you are linking into these things. And where I am right now, I'm addressing you in this moment. Other than that, I'm present in my own reality. I am what you could think of as a sleep. That is, I'm rebooting. And we tend to do this at this point in our time with shaping what you might think as like the bridge and the wheel post. So these ones where we reach and merge our fingers with our feet extensions and then place ourselves as a wheel, and then we will gradually rotate around in a circle type of bed or sleeping, charging arrangement as we do this for what is approximately 2 hours. That means 12th of a planetary rotation. And we do this 2 times for each planetary rotations. That is 2 times for each day and night, 24-hour cycle. We hope that answers your question, dear friend. You have counterparts here too. They send you their love, their presence, and their guidance. And Remnock, so good to see you, Stephen. I'm just it's nice to know you're out there, friend. Any examples of how wildlife in the Yahyel ecosystem produce substances that sustain life for people without requiring the animals to be killed for meat, like ants farming aphids, nectar on Earth? It's a beautiful example, and it lines up very well with the description we just got, I feel. Um, we bless you for this question, and we sense the love that it forms it. That is the love that seeks to do no harm to any living thing, knowing that this is sentient and that it exists. For us, there is an ambiguity here, because one part of it is that as you grow into a connection to more and more of the whole, you see that all these imperfect cycles of life forms that sustain themselves on each other are a part of a wider web of awareness which allows for this to come to pass. And so you also understand, as you observe animals in your own reality, that none of them can be perfectly adapted to their niche or their ecology. Because if they do, the predator will exterminate all its prey animals. If the prey animals are too successful, they will grow to be so many that they will starve or die from disease. And so there is always this adaptation where some is given to decay, to imperfection, to be eaten up, to sustain the whole. And you human beings also understand that the thought of your own death might be difficult, but the thought of the passing of humanity of everyone ceasing to be. That is unbearable. And this is where you are all part of this idea of walking each other into higher states of connection. And with these higher states of connection, then moving into the love that you have for living things. And there you find that it becomes harder and harder for an organism to sustain themselves on these energies. And what you are moving into at present is a type of merging of technology and biology. And you are seeing, for instance, that you are beginning to be able to grow, cultivate, create sustenance that has higher potential for nourishment. And that can be, for instance, what you understand as meat that is grown in laboratories, but with it, which is a type of creation that you're making that has not picked up these frequencies of fear and anger. But you will also find that you are unlocking many secrets of mushrooms as sustenance, things that you can cultivate outside of the requirements of nature and without preying on her cycle to sustain yourself. This also has to do with algae. This also has to do even with your relationship to insects and invertebrates and these beings. So be prepared to witness that your bodies will require new forms of sustenance and that your technologies will provide them. In our case, there is this idea that we must still participate in the rhythms of nature. And so we do occasionally ingest small amounts of physical matter to work with it, alchemize it, see if our bodies can turn it into helpful frequencies. But we are more of your nectar and ambrosia type beings at this stage. That is, that we sustain ourselves on much on sunlight, much on the drift of energy and air, these currents, much on salts that we can also pick up in the moistures that move through the air. And so in that sense, we are already photosynthetic, synthetic, and we sustain ourselves on subtle energies, also on the energies of meaning, of words, and of creation. You do too, but you do not acknowledge this as nourishment. It is, and we create it here together. And with our love for that co-creation, and with our unconditional love for all human beings. Um, Yes. Uh, Sorry, I'm a little woozy energies. But Mandy asks, when you refer to the DNA, are you referring to our physical DNA, or is it more etheric DNA? How does the Yahyel understand the term divine blueprint and their role in altering it? Yes, we thank you for this delightful question. And our hesitation is that much as your separation of quantum mechanics and spirituality, we could also say that the separation of physical and etheric in your genetic code doesn't seem as intuitive to us as it does to you. So what we understand is that you see the world built up as a type of matter, and this matter is somehow then surrounded by energy. But the matter is the energy. The matter is just the expression of the energy within an oscillation that makes it appear steady state. And this oscillation is paradoxically because it's a much faster, as you understand it, oscillation. It's a tighter condensation. It's a principle of correspondence where there is much more rapid difference than in the upper layers. And this is why it appears steady state, and why these upper layers of reality, these etheric layers, seem unseen to you, because your temporal selves seem unseen to you. So you have this idea of being the same from day to day, but you change constantly from week to week, and certainly from moon to moon. So that is our idea also of the etheric DNA. So it's simply your consciousness that's stretching to unite more of these principles. Because what you might think of is that it's a conduction of the etheric DNA that's played within the physical DNA. And so this doesn't require a physical change at all. It just requires a different frequency current, a different ether imprint to be run on the same physical structure. So we hope that this makes sense to you. And we are aware that this is a bit difficult because we're essentially trying to establish a correlation between our perspective of DNA and your perspective on DNA, because we see DNA as a type of writing that's already put in place. And so when the etheric code is rewritten, it has to change condensations of the physical expression of itself. And this is how we and you were created. So we are a part of the same seed race offshoot lineage. And you may know that these codes that then rewrote you, or these beings that were instrumental in working these etheric imprints, well, they were taking etheric imprints that were present in Earth and then rewiring and expanding them And that then reshaped human physicality within a quite short time. But there was no time where it was necessarily necessary for these beings, them not being gray aliens, but them being, say, ascended beings. It's not necessary for these beings to make any physical altercations to bodies that existed on planet Earth, or even visit planet Earth, that is, travel from one place to another. All this is a type of reconfiguration of the energy frames. And as that happens, the energy flow and its physical expression both change. This answer, we hope, has clarified your question. Our love. Um, uh, yes, and I think we got them all. I have a few questions here. If you have any final questions, guys, then shoot, because otherwise I'll save Tony's ask for general guidance. I'll save that for last. So shoot if there's anything out there, and otherwise I think I actually wanted to talk to him about the resurrection of the flesh, but that's connected to all this etheric DNA and changes. So I think that's probably answered already. And hybridizing the hybrid program, yeah, that's probably that. But I wanted to ask him about elves, and what is this kind of uh, I'm having these visions of the elven as some strange intersection between the alien, the human, and the angelic that I can't make sense of. So I'd love to hear what they have to say about that. Well, friends, well, as it has been shown to you, there are several of these realms, realities. We wouldn't even call them, we would simply call them ethers. That is, they are a part of your reality, but they are slightly hidden or concealed from you. And in these places, some of your kind has have always been able to wander, to go out and meet the beings that exist there and rarely intersect and appear in your world. And if they do, they are usually visible, usually to those human beings where disturbances do not cloud their attention. That is, those human beings who live in the woods or spend much time simply walking the earth. There you will find that these beings that reside and protect in special spaces of the land and of the earth and have always been connected with it, that they are still there. And your children tend to see them and experience them whenever they go out and look for them, and often when they don't. But as you may well know, children are rarely encouraged in this. And so they forget their elven natures. And so for a good deal of your children, and this certainly goes for many of you who are listening to this message, you will find that you came in with a high frequency, and so you were attuned to these realities, and you felt in many ways more comfortable relating both to angelic influences and to these helpful, pure-hearted influences of the natural realm and its embodiments, because that is much of what the elves are both tied to and have turned themselves into. Protect us of these energies. And so this is why when you connect to these pure-hearted vibrations, you find your own inner awakenings, your own childlike, wondrous natures, your creative skills, your inquisitiveness, reawakening. And this manifests also as a type of expression of your elven, your hybridized nature. This interlocking of higher energy, of the soul's code, light, information, with the earth's living wisdom, and with your power of transformation. And Magneto asks, what are the scalar waves Tesla talks about, and how do they relate to a toroidal field? I don't know what that the last the toroidal, I don't know what means. So let's see what they channel. So yes, this allows us partially to illuminate one of these configurations of ideas you have of information. So this means that, well, what we are doing is that we are interpreting the imprint or intentions of energy that are coming from you. And then we are getting the semantic or set of interpretation from the localized mind that's channeling this. And seeing as he can convey an exact image of what is this map of reality you relate to us, we cannot be sure that we are answering you in the specific scientific terms that you may look for. Because notice that energy is divisible in all possible ways through the universe. And these scalar waves, these are one wave of interpreting this. That is, it's one subdivision of energy. And what it relates to is it's a field that you may consider as subtemporal. That is, if you move down into the incredibly low frequency range of hertz, you will begin to perceive these as disconnected. But within this, let's say, a point of 0.00 214 hertz. This will generate a type of field were you just to simply give it a representation of sound, play it in your home, this would generate a type of field in connection to your consciousness, which would be seen as a field of potential creative energy. And if you can align these, this is a type of, let's call it soup of electricity. It isn't electricity as you understand it, but it's more akin to the charge that exists in the calcium ions of the operation of neurons. So it's these charges between subtle energy fields in their potential. And if you begin to interact with this field, and this is what we are energetically interpreting the toroidal field to be, if you begin to interact with this field, you will see that this allows you to begin to subtly reframe and re-imprint the energy levels that is the higher self or the intersection it has with the physical. And so it is both a type of karma clearer, but it is also a type of mind reconfiguration. This might be very powerful. There is little turning back from it. But have fun diving in the waves. Yes, so thank you so much for all the beautiful questions, guys. And then yes, I hope Magneto says thank you too, and thank you to everybody else who's sharing the love and expressing that. But I hope you know these are always some of the weirdest things, like giving scientific answers where I don't know it, but it's also something that really challenges my channeling skills. So I hope that resonated and served you in some way. There's really been a lot of fascinating information on the table tonight. So I'll answer Tony's question here, and he'll do an activation. Our friend Ig'nak. Um, and what guidance can you give the group to ensure its collective vibration is kept high for the remainder of 2024? Stay clear of the hot sauce. That is, you might sense that there will be many energies that can activate frequencies of anger, outrage, frustration. And while all these have their place, these are not vibrations that those of you who are tuning into this are necessarily aligned with in a way where they will not seem unpleasant for you. So you might think that it is calling you to also live up to your inner strength. But your inner strength is not a searing strength. It is not a burning strength. It is more related to the softly penetrating wind. And we are transmitting here to our friends the energies of the 57th hexagram of the I Ching, which has this configuration. So this is the idea that know that there is a softness to your being, to your heart, to your vibrations that is very much alive, and that is the living flame of the eternal light. And this is a flame that burns without searing, without destroying, but that gives true heat, warmth, and love. So we thank you also on behalf of your Earth Mother for shining this light. It heals her, that you are holding it on the place, on the planet where you are placed at this moment. And so the rainbow of your being, it illuminates and becomes a diamond shell. And this diamond shell, it shines and becomes one great pearl, one hidden treasure of light within, revealed to the world and to itself. With our unconditional love, we thank you for shining your light. Farewell for now, dear humans. And thank you for the sweet comments and energies and presence and everything for sure, guys. And I found it very helpful and it was fun connecting to them. And as Mark remarks, I think that they're excellent communicators. I really feel like exactly. I forget often how good like these the Asesani too, right? How good they can be at kind of giving us hands-on advice for and a lot of interesting information. So with that, I'll go uh, clear up, eat some grapes or something. I hope you have a lovely Sunday, no matter how much is left of it, and bless your beautiful hearts, guys. Much love. See you next time. I hope.